Everybody, we're calling this meeting to order at 1:40. 1:40 p.m. Dawn Bullock, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Can I have a roll call, please? Yes.
Ogalla,
Yes. Here, sorry.
Berkowitz,
Here.
Brooks,
Yeah.
Bullock,
Here.
Butler,
Here.
Hickey,
Here.
Ortiz.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item of business is the approval of minutes. Can I please have a motion to approve the minutes for April 1st, 2025? Moved by
Second,
Brooks, second by Ogalla. Roll call?
Ogalla,
Yes.
Berkowitz,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yeah.
Bullock,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hickey,
Yes.
Ortiz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, we have ISACO tracked bills attached to the agenda. Please look them over. And if you have any questions or any comments, please let us know. Moving on, we have old business, federal legislative update by Smith Garson.
Good afternoon. Sorry, can everyone hear me? We've had a little lagging.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, I'm Brett Garson, the CEO at Smith Garson, and one of the team members with Chris Pratt, KP, and John Baer. We're going to give you an update on all of the going on in Washington. There's quite a bit of activity. With that, I'm going to turn it over to KP. We want to make sure that you know to interject if you have any questions, or we can also wait till the end to talk about any federal questions or issues you might have. KP, I'm going to turn over to you now.
Thanks, Brett. I'm getting a little feedback. Are you guys
Yeah, we're getting the feedback too.
okay? Let me
They're
mute
saying
myself
that
and
it's
try
on.
again.
Yeah, they're saying it's on your end.
Okay, hold on one second.
All right, KP, why don't you mute and I can get things going because I know you guys have a bit busy agenda. So yeah, it's very busy in Washington. I think a lot of us have been watching what's going on with the reconciliation process. And just for quick background on that, I think we've talked about it the last few ledge committee meetings, but it's essentially a bill process where the House, which always can pass legislation by a simple majority, starts the process, and then the Senate, which typically needs 60 votes to pass legislation, they're able to use a simple majority to pass the legislation. And so it has to do with any sort of budget, taxing, and revenue legislation or provisions. They're in the middle of that right now in the House. They started having hearings on that and markups this week. Actually, last week. They're going on to their second week of this, and then it sounds like they're going to have a third week. There's a lot of conversation around, what might happen in the House Ways and Means Committee. That's the committee with jurisdiction over tax cuts, as well as the Agriculture Committee. That's the jurisdiction with agriculture programs, but also SNAP benefits. And so there's a lot of effort to try to cut different programs, but also include new programs. There was a portion on the defense process part of the bill where they included $150 billion in new defense programs. So there's a lot of activity around that. The president released his fiscal year 2026 skinny budget on Friday. We're going to actually send you all an update later this afternoon with that information, just a kind of a few blurbs on that, but also some links to the documents in case that's of interest to you. There was roughly $163 billion cut in domestic discretionary programs from fiscal year 2025. That was roughly 22% of the domestic discretionary budget for fiscal year 26. There's roughly $1.01 trillion in defense spending, That's, I believe, about a 10% increase from fiscal 2025 level, fiscal year 2025 levels. What that means that they passed along the president's budget is that they will now start the annual budget process where they call in agency officials and different senior level of staff and officials from agencies to talk about their budget justification, ask them questions about their budget, and then they'll start marking up the bills and packaging those bills. And that's what essentially is what funds the federal government annually. As you may know, in fiscal year 25, they ended up punting it to March and then decided on doing a continuing resolution to essentially fund the budget at fiscal year 24 levels. This year, it sounds like because they have the new Congress in and the White House, they're going to try to get something done by the end of the year. That's typically the time period that they've fallen into passing budgets at this point. And so we'll be closely monitoring that and making sure you're aware of any activity along those lines. The other thing that they're starting to work on, and will go into next year, is the next surface transportation bill. That's typically a 5-year transportation bill where they set federal funding priorities for the federal transportation programs. They're just starting to have hearings around current transportation programs and what the needs are for different programs. That will happen in both the House and the Senate. The House is the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and the Senate is the Environment, Public Works, Commerce Committee, and Senate Banking Committee has public transportation. That process, they're trying to wrap up by the end of the year because the current law lapses in September, the end of September 2026. With that, I'm going to turn it over, or I'm going to see if John or KP have any other thoughts or ideas about the federal projects or programs. And if not, we'll open it up to questions.
Are there any questions for the federal lobbyists at this time? All right, seeing none, I want to thank you very much for your update, and we look forward to an email from you later on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care.
You too. All right, moving on to. Okay, moving on to state legislative update by Max Strategies.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So
Good
we're down
afternoon.
in Springfield. We're at the last 4 weeks of the scheduled spring legislative session. This week, next week is a committee deadline week where bills in the second chamber have to pass committee to meet that deadline. Senate has been pretty good. Well, depending on your perspective, the Senate has been more generous about giving extensions than the House, and we don't see any real reason for that to change. The focus now, the primary focus of the legislature for the rest of the session really will be about the budget, and specifically, there are questions about the revenue estimates. The Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability has a revenue estimate for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1. That is $471 million lower than the governor's introduced budget. So the question will be, does the legislature, which revenue estimate do they use? Maybe some hybrid or combination thereof. But that whole process is in full swing right now and will be the primary focus of the General Assembly between now and the end of May. That being said, they're still, they're moving legislation, and there are a number, they will still pass likely a few hundred bills between now and the end of the month. Specifically on priority bills on our agenda, House Bill 1364, the Joliet Arsenal Development Authority, that is scheduled for the Senate Judiciary Committee this coming week, tomorrow at 3:30. There is an amendment on that. There are two technically. The second one is the correct one. has the language we had sought to extend that authority by a period of time so that can continue to operate, and then makes other changes. But that seems teed up to move. That will have to go after it passes the Senate back to the House on a concurrence motion so that both chambers can have voted on the exact same language. House Bill 663 is in Senate Local Government Committee tomorrow, also at 3:30. Fortunately, the rooms are right next to each other. And that is some language that was worked out regarding the sanitary district, just some, I would consider generally technical cleanup language. And that one seems on a good path as well for passage. The quick take bill is currently, there's a couple different versions of it. The most recent iteration is on House Bill 250. The sponsor is continuing to speak with staff about that, but that is a House bill that is still in the House. And so it will need to pass through both chambers still if that is going to make it and get signed into law. House Bill 3517 would be a grant through DCEO to the Joliet Historical Museum. There is that legislation is technically in the House Appropriations, Public Safety and Infrastructure Committee this Wednesday at 4. Appropriations bills, though, they'll be filed as individual bills like this, but they don't pass the budget that way. The budget will be, 1, 2, maybe 3 bills that provide appropriation authority, and they'll include all of the funding of state government in those 1, 2, or 3 bills. They'll fold ideas that successfully make it into the budget from a bill like 3517 into the broader budget bills. But those budget bills are not yet, the actual numbers are not yet known. They'll use appropriations vehicles when the time comes and roll all the budget concepts into a small handful of bills. And then finally, on the priority bills, Senate Bill 1698, Will County land transfer. This bill has been back in the Senate Assignments Committee since April 11th. Again, as I said earlier, the Senate has been a little bit more willing to grant extensions of deadlines for specific bills. That was not done with this bill. So as a result, the most likely outcome is that bill will not advance in the Senate this year and will not move. So with that, I will turn it over to Ann.
All right, so Matt just went through the priority bills. I also wanted to update you on a few other items that you've raised in the past, just to give you updates on the status there. So there's 2.
Oh, can't hear you.
Anne, hold on one second. We just lost you.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us either.
Can't hear you.
Can you text her?
Can't hear you. She can
We-
see us.
We can't hear you.
They're looking now, I see. Yeah. Like,
Is
what?
this any better? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Great, sorry about that.
Okay, can you start over? Because I don't think, we
Oh,
lost you again.
You can. Okay, how about now?
Okay, now yes.
Can you hear them?
Can you hear us?
I'm muted so they can hear me, but can you hear that?
I can't hear.
Okay. All right, we good to go?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
For your patience. So I wanted to update you on a few other items that you've raised before. I'll start with House Bill 2341 and Senate Bill 1416. Those are the appropriations bills for local health protection grants. As we discussed before, all individual bills that are introduced as budget items or appropriations bills are not moving forward on their own. The individual line items get considered. Having them filed as individual bills is helpful so they can add co-sponsors and have hearings and things, but that bill by itself will not pass. If it advances, the line item would be taken and put into a budget bill at the end of session. So for those two bills, they're not moving on their own. House Bill 2341 is having a hearing this Thursday though, so that they will be able to, or it's posted for a hearing, they'll be able to discuss that then. In the past, we've talked about Senate Bill 93, which is Senator Preston's bill prohibiting food additives. As you know, they narrowed the bill from 4 different additives down to 2 before it did pass the Senate. It is posted for a hearing in the House on Thursday, so we'll see what happens there. We've previously discussed Senate Bill 1954, which is the recall of county officials. That bill was amended significantly, significantly narrowing it down. It did pass the Senate on April 10th, not unanimously, and it is in the House. It is assigned to the Elections and Ethics Committee, but it is not yet, well, it was posted for a hearing, but that hearing was canceled this week, so we'll have to see if that gets assigned or posted again. There were 2 bills, the House and Senate bill version on consumer electronics recycling, and the House bill version moved forward. It passed both the House and Senate committees unanimously, and it passed the House as well. Now it's in the Senate and it passed the Senate committee, so it'll be moving forward to the Senate floor. Senate Bill 1608 is Senator Ventura's Cargo Transport Act, and this is the one that would impose a fee on carriers. It has been assigned to Senate Revenue Committee, but it has not been moving forward. It did get a deadline extension to the end of this week, but it has not been posted for a hearing this week. So it seems unlikely that it would move forward, but perhaps she will get another week's extension to keep trying. And then finally, we have previously discussed the bill that's sometimes referred to as United We Move Illinois. It's the organized labor's version of the transit bill discussing a road usage charge pilot program. And again, this one similarly, the Senate bill version has an extension, but is not posted for a hearing. It was part of a larger committee hearing on the transit topic recently, but it doesn't seem like that bill itself is moving. And the transit topic overall is a murky one for this session, certainly a high priority as the transit boards are discussing their funding cliff coming into effect and what the impact of that would be in terms of ridership and route cuts. But the legislature is nowhere near agreement on the reforms that would be needed, that they feel are needed before adding more funding to assist those boards. So I think there continues to be a thought around consolidating boards in some way, or at least consolidating governance of them in some way that could lead to some efficiencies so that, for example, riders could switch from one system to the next with a similar form of payment. And there's been floated some topics of conversation about how to fund some of that, but obviously it would be quite pricey. And in face of the in the face of all the budget challenges that Matt detailed before, it's going to be quite a heavy lift to pass. So I think lawmakers are really not interested in passing tax and fee increases if they don't have to, and if the rest of it's not coming forward at this point in time. It seems like maybe they will hold off until next year to do that. But we continue to watch these conversations closely to ensure that Will County has a voice in whatever comes of it. So that's our updates on bills you've mentioned in the past. If you have questions on any of these or others, just let us know.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions at this time? All right, seeing none, appreciate you, Ann and Matt. You guys have a good one. We'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. I did just want to make a really quick comment before I moved on the agenda. So I had a meeting with Member Bullock, and I'd like to give her all the credit she's due for bringing forward a new idea and tackling this legislative committee. So in the past, we've received these very, very long reports from our lobbyists, like 70, 80 pages. This one was cut down because I did request that we are only following the ones that are probably going to make it out of committee. I know we've all been trying our best to try and digest these very long reports. However, it is a lot to chew off. So with that being said, Member Bullock has suggested, and I agree, that we should split the load evenly and trust each other to look over the assigned pages of our report and then come back to committee and let us know if there's any bills or concepts and policies that we should be supporting or opposing. So I will be sending out an email today, and we get weekly reports. So I'll be sending you weekly updates just to letting you know what assigned pages that you should be reviewing and letting us know. And if I don't hear back from you, I might just send you a text message to remind you. So be looking out for that. But I really wanted to thank Member Bullock for her idea. So yes. Did you want to say something, Member Berkowitz? Go ahead.
Okay, so going back, when our lobbyist was, oh, Judy, am I saying the name wrong? Lee Hassert. So they provided us every month with, and it went in numerical order, an amazing list
Mhm.
of all the bills that were pertinent to our county. They did the work because they're our lobbyist. They provided it to us. And we were able to go into that list. It was easy to read. I probably still have some in my email that we used to get. They'd send them out to the board members. And we could go through that list. It had link, you click on it, go right to the link, and you could do your research. And it was efficient. And again, as our lobbyists, they provided that information to us. That was part of their services. I'd like to go back to that. I would love to have, because basically that's why we've, that's one of the things we've hired our lobbyists for. But the list was provided the bill number, a very one sentence description. You could link on, you could click on that bill number and go right to the link and be able to read it. And then we were able to, if we had a question, just reach out to them with our questions. It was very efficient. And if we could get back to that, that would be excellent. I was listening to Ann's presentation, but it didn't match the attachment on the agenda. So
Right.
it was very,
Hard to follow.
difficult to digest everything. So that's my suggestion. We had a system, it was incredible. And if we could go back to that, I think it'd be wonderful. Because there's no way and they're there, they are there, they know what's going on, they know all the moving pieces. So that's my suggestion. That's why we pay our lobbyists.
Thank you so much for that suggestion. I really appreciate it. Okay, yes,
Committee, but,
Michael Freeman.
thank you, Chair Ortiz. Once it's sent, is it possible to get it out to others other than Chuck, to get it out other than to just the committee? Because I'm not on the committee, but I enjoy, yeah, because it would be nice to have that too, legislative and federal updates on the things that we're following. Thank you.
Yes, yes. And I think Chuck did send out the last two reports.
You asked me to send them out countywide.
Yes. So moving forward, we'll just make that the standard to send them out to everybody so that we can do that. Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. Yes. All right, no other old business. So moving on to new business, discussion about adding concepts to the state legislative agenda. So additionally, I want to give Member Bullock some more credit here. She also deserves credit for suggesting that we should open a line of communication with each committee on the board to bring any legislative proposal forward for consideration. So look out for that. I'm going to be reaching out to each committee chair, and starting that line of communication so that we have more feedback, more input moving forward for our state legislative agenda. Additionally, we will be working on adding to and amending our state legislative agenda for the upcoming year in a way that makes legislators excited to read, because as we heard on this committee before, it's not very exciting to read it. Some people have admitted openly that they haven't read it, so we want to create something that people are going to want to read. Yes, thank you. We're going to need all the luck. Right. So we'll be working to create an editable version of the legislative agenda for each member of this committee to suggest changes, to be able to edit on their own. for the state legislative agenda, and this is aiming to ensure a more transparent process of inputting the ideas into the agenda. So I just wanted to let you all know that we will be working towards that in the very near future. Does anyone else have any other comments or suggestions for,
I do.
go ahead.
So, having been the prior chairman of the board and worked on the state legislative agenda, some of what you said is kind of like negative towards that process in my mind.
Mhm.
We've always been transparent. It's always been very open for anybody to be involved with it. Committees are well aware of what's going on because of the fact that you sit on those committees, the state legislative agenda is going on. What typically happens is staff meets with all the different departments, our lobbyists meet with the different departments, elected officials to find out what their issues are. We add our issues in accordingly to, the basic concepts of what is important to us here in Will County, such as like recycling and stuff like that. So we've always done that in the past. I don't know that it's not been transparent. I think a lot of people on this committee are new. Many people are very new. Therefore, you're not aware of it. And the first time you have a process that goes through, it maybe appears to be not transparent because you don't know what's going on. But it is transparent. There's nothing that's not transparent about it. And the draft agenda is always talked about for months at a time because things can change and things do change. And we did open it up to making sure that all the elected officials are well aware of the fact that if they have an issue that they want us to add as well, like for instance, the clerk's office or the recorder of deeds, they have their own lobbying groups, but we've always asked them to bring something forward if they wanted us to also support something or oppose something. So they're hearing it from more than one group, not just their group, but also the county board process as well. So I think that's a good thing to do that we have done in the past. So we have always asked for committee, input from everybody. It's never not happened before. So I am creating something that's fun to read when it's just legislation. I don't know how you're going to make it fun, but maybe a character pops up or whatever. I'm not quite sure. You give out stickers if they've read it. But that you got to remember, state legislators get thousands of documents at their desk from all the different lobbying groups, from all the different other governmental bodies that they do. So a lot of them see it, they know it. That's why we do our lobby day, which this year was, to me, our lobby day was not what it should have been. You have a whole new staff. Lobby day should be that you have a meetings set up. And of course, this year, even if we had to set up, I think it would have failed because of that homeschool legislation. It was jammed down in Springfield. They shut the Capitol down because so many people were there. So even if we had arranged to have meetings with different legislators, we probably would have never met those because of that. So I think going forward, we need to have the conversation to what we expect on lobby day, how we want our lobbyists and staff to help prepare. So when I went down, and Micah was down there with me, it was tornado day, along with homeschool day. It was tornado day, but we had nothing prepared to take down with us. So in the past, we would provide those going down for legislative lobby day with a copy of the legislative agenda, enough. We split it up amongst those who are going. This year, only 3 people went. It was not, I think, sufficient. That way you could go meet everybody, give them the book again, even if they had it. It didn't matter because now you're reiterating, reinforcing what you had. And you could sit down and talk about specific things that were important, whatever the hot topics were at the time. Let's say the Joliet detention center, that things, what do we want really to happen? That, again, we're torn between that and the forest preserves issue on that particular one. So I think that moving forward, we can obviously do a better job. Again, changing in the staff made and changing leadership on the county board made that all different. So I look forward to what ideas you guys have to make this more exciting than it is, because it's just legislation and general concepts. So that's all. Like,
Thank you so much. Micah, I'm gonna let Dawn speak first since she's on the committee. Member Bullock?
Thanks. So as I've said before, but I'll say it again. I would like to see this document kind of become a living document so that we're not taking things off of it when we're redoing it. Because we have these beliefs, these things that we want to see happen in our county, those aren't usually going to change. So by making the document a living document, our legislators will be familiar with what's in it. Any little new tweaks or anything like that, we can send off an email, send off a whatever. But as our lobbyist, and we are paying them, correct?
Mhm.
It is their job to know what we stand for, whether we send them 65 resolutions during the year or whether we give them one book.
Mhm.
So I just want us to work kind of smarter, not harder. If we have a living agenda or a living platform that they know about, it's there. They can go look at it. And if we do something, we can print it off if we want. We can also do, here's the card with the QR code that's going to take you to the document and you can, just something to make this not a new thing every time. And I would almost like us to have on our agenda on every meeting, working on the platform. So it's not just a one meeting, or it's not just the last 2 months, or it's something we do all year long, because there's bills coming out all year long that we may go, oh, we want to put that in our agenda. We didn't think about that one. We didn't think about that idea or that stance on it. And so that was kind of the conversation that.
So I like to respond to it. So the document, it is a living document. You have a document that is put together with all the basic concepts. At the beginning of every year, you saw there were 6,000 bills put forward. No one can know what they are, but if the bill is addressing something that we support, even though it's in our document, we want to let them know, hey, House Bill 1575, the Will County Board supports. So we want to tell them that, because when they get the basic concepts, which, right, they don't change from year to year very much. They stay pretty much stagnant. So if they are reading it, they could get it. If you have an online version of it, that's good too. But it is nice when you go down there to have a paper so you can stand and talk and say, and show them something. You're not going to sit and pull up your phones and maybe, they've run out of juice on their phone. So I understand that part. And as far as updating it all the time, we never update the document. When I had it created, it was in a 3-ring binder of a sort. And in the back would you put the amendments to it, because you can't know in advance what the House bill or Senate bill numbers will be, or something comes up that we'd be totally opposed to. So you have to act on those as you go. But it is nice to have a document that you have to start from somewhere with the basic concepts. And the only amendments that get made would be those where we're directly saying we support or oppose these bills. So I think it's just the knowing the document. I don't have mine with me, but Bill, he has one. So instead of having it in a bound document, as this is, I had it in a 3-ring binder or a folder of some sort so that you could put the amendments in it. But the basics are here and the basics don't change. Who your board members are typically aren't changing unless somebody wins the lotto and resigns from this county board. And then composting initiatives. Will County supports this. But when something comes forward, House Bill 1622, that directly does this, then it's a reinforcement to say, hey, our agenda has that, but this bill, we want you to support it because it supports our initiative. So I don't understand. It is a living document. It just was printed in this form so that it's not something that you can update. So we would go ahead and be able to update a document when we went to Springfield we would put forward a page that would say amendment, and it supports, much like it shows here, we'd say we support Senate Bill 22 because criminal justice system, whatever that is. So that's kind of how we did it. This is in a binder you cannot update.
So Dawn, I like your idea. I think we're kind of on the same page. We're just talking about different ways to get there.
Yeah, I don't know how you can create it. It's a living document. I don't understand how you're going to make it more living.
If we digitize, maybe. Here, I'm sorry. I know. Can I allow Member Hickey to?
Thank you. I appreciate that. When we're talking about the format, I think that one of the things that stands out to me is they have to be Will County specific, right? I mean, that's what we'd like to see. So when it comes to a compelling format, I think that it's important that we share how specifically this bill or issue impacts our county. For example, SB 8 is about safe gun storage. I think it's fantastic. But I also know that I've heard many times folks on this board talk about unfunded mandates. And I think that that's true. I mean, we have to call that out where we see it. So for example, with using SB 8 as an example, how much is that, how many people will need that don't already have it, and how many FOID card members are there in our county, or things like that, so that we can just show how this is going to affect. Because right now, I know that there are state level programs through IDPH that provide free gun storage, and I know that there are national programs. I think Be Smart is one of them. But if those things dry up, who's helping the people who need to be able to do safe gun storage in order to be compliant with what may become a law? And I mean, it's for the residents as far as that's concerned, and then for the county overall. And I think we all know where we've been put into a bind with regard to solar farms. I don't want to beat that dead horse, but we all know how that is. So I think that if we can say, like, we have this many, acres of solar farms in our county, we have this many applications that we have to look at, and we have this many objections from, mayors and neighbors and townships. I think that that's a compelling way to kind of make our case, which goes beyond just saying we support or we don't.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Yeah, but we had that in the document when we would put the document out there, had our seal on it, said amendment to our state legislative agenda. I'll use Senate Bill 8. Did you say it was? Senate Bill 8, Will County Board opposes or supports this. And then we would list the reasons why. It wasn't just a one-line statement that said that. We haven't done many amendments. The amendments that we've put forward have just been letters. They haven't matched what we did in the past. So we did put all the reasons why we would oppose or support it. So you as a person would go down on lobby day or anytime, or go meet your legislator in their office. You could take that document with and say, listen, the county board has voted to support or oppose Senate Bill 8, and these are the reasons why. Or we support it, but we think changes need to be made. You could hand out that document to them. A paper document is good. You need to have it. I mean, I think online is great. But when you're going to meet people wherever, you may not both be able to look at something online. So, I mean, I think that's great, but we had done that. That's how we had done it before.
Member Freeman.
I was hoping to piggyback off of Vice Chair Ogala's comments about lobby day.
Okay.
Because when we went, it was packed.
Yeah.
There was so many people at the Capitol building. But the other problem was that it was all of our legislators were in committee meetings.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even get in to see them anyway. And I think there was only 3 that went because UCCI pays for 3 to go. But so that would have to go to the speaker to determine if they wanted to send and have that cost. But yeah, I mean, we need to find a day that we can actually lobby when there are legislators available. Because if they're not even in their office, it's
Yeah,
a waste of a drive.
No.
So, I mean, I talk to mine all the time, but to lobby to any of the other ones that might want to hear what I have to say, they have to be not in a committee meeting all day.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to know what's
Mhm.
going to happen that day when you set up. Before, we were not members of UCCI, so we did send people in the past.
Right.
And you definitely need to send more than 3. I don't know who signed up to go. If there was just 3 people, I don't know. Maybe Chuck knows that. So you can never know that, unfortunately. But we need to have our lobbyists set up meetings with them, because they sometimes will at least come out in the
That would be
hallway.
excellent. Have
And
our
that-
lobbyists figure out when we should go.
Right, and that didn't happen. We go down on the UCCI because we had the legislative reception that evening, so the legislators can come and talk with you there. But again, because that House bill, that's homeschooling bill, nobody was able to go to
No, they
anything.
had to shut it down and
Right,
we
that,
could
so
go
that
see
made
it.
this year difficult too.
So that was all. It just was, there had to be some way, and you're absolutely right. The lobbyists would be perfect people to figure out when we could actually go and meet with with our legislators.
Thank you so much. Member Bullock?
Okay, let me explain, let me just give my definition of a living document, because I don't think we're on the same page. When I say a living document, like this has, like, if I count 12 things in it, that there is no way that we only want 12 things for Will County. So it is not living if we are making it new every time and we're not leaving what we've already decided we support for our county in it. We shouldn't have to make a new one of these necessarily every time. Maybe little fact sheets for us to take down if we're going to do a lobby day or whatever. But, and I'm not saying we can't print it, and I'm not saying we should only do QR code for nothing else. I'm saying some people are much more, I want to be online. Some people are much more paper. All options available. I'm not opposed to that. But a living document keeps what let's say we started this 10 years ago. 10 years ago, that what is still in there, what is in the document is what we started with, unless it has completely gone out of whatever, it's completely gone. Like, this has nothing about solar in it. How does this not have anything about solar in it with everything we have going on? But if once it gets in there, it stays in there. And then we go back to it and maybe we have to change it because a phrase, we don't use that word anymore in the group, or they've added something to it that's now kind of tweaked it to where maybe we aren't going to be in favor of that. That's what I mean, a living document, that it's not something we're like making from scratch every time. And it's not linked to the specific bill numbers in this document. This is all of our legislative kind of beliefs in a sense. These are the things we want for Will County. They're going to stay that way unless something crazy happens in Will County. But the bill numbers and all that, when those come up, I have nothing against sending something. I don't think we have to do a whereas, but we can do a, hey, these are the ones we want you to keep an eye on, email, ding, done. That's different in my mind than what should be in our legislative agenda.
So our legislative agenda is not fully done new every year, okay? It is, if you go back and look, does carry over many of the same things that were there year after year. You go through it at the end of this year, when we start going through it, and we'll say, oh, well, we accomplished that. That bill got passed. So we don't have to worry about putting that on there anymore. So for instance,
That's why they know what we want. But if you take it out and something drastic happens, we have nothing in there anymore.
okay, but so here's the thing. In there, we had put in there for a long time that we wanted, at Lewis University, we wanted to have a terminal or something like that for that. We were able to achieve it, but that had been on our legislative agenda for years and years and years. We had lobbied for it, and then we finally were able to get it. So then that dropped off because we don't need it on there anymore. We were able to get that. So it does continue and it does stay. This is your first year, so this is the first time you're seeing it. Go back and look at all the years past. You'll see it is very much the same as it had been. So we don't rewrite it every single year. They just create a new document, put a new picture on the front. This picture has the Capitol.
So I think we can agree that adding new concepts to the state legislative agenda is a good thing. And I definitely agree that I think that I am surprised that the solar stuff is not on there.
Yeah.
It should be on there. I
Yeah.
mean, we're putting up a lot to fight it, so we
Well,
should
no, but
definitely.
nobody brought it forward. Why not? I don't know why.
Well, I just think it's a good idea and good points to be made. So I think it's exciting to create something more. This committee has been a little lax in the past, and I don't think that people really had a grasp of how to organize it. I think maybe trying something new like we're doing is the way to do it. Trying to conform into what was there might not have worked for us. And I think trying something new is a good idea. So thank you for listening to her, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Dan.
So if I'm understanding what kind of the committees or some of the committee members' desires would be, it would be to create a document that has a narrative that deals with these concepts like solar as a narrative, right? And it may reference certain bills in the past or certain bills that are coming up, but it would be a narrative, a topical narrative for each particular item. Am I correct on that? Is that accurate?
It's
And again, you would
100%
add to that over the course of a year, so you would have a narrative that reflects the issues as it impacts Will County then,
Nobody
correct?
brought anything forward.
Yep.
Because because part of the issue for me was when the agenda said, okay, ideas for, or what do you want in the platform? I'm like, but if we talk about it monthly as we go along, those things are going to be very relevant in our mind. We'll be able to go, oh yeah, we need to add this. Oh yeah, don't forget about this. And the other committees have the same ability to say, hey, throw this in there. We want something, I just think it's not necessarily a transparency thing as much as it is opening it up for everybody to have kind of equal access in it, not access to it, but equal input to it, whether they're on this committee or not.
And they always have that. You guys don't know because you weren't here.
Trying to say, like, what she's trying to say is. Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
start again. Now you're ready.
I think what she's trying to say is she just wants to create like a workshop environment where when this committee gets together, we could spend a little time in committee talking about
Yeah.
these things. So I don't know how that evolves. Maybe new business is where we bring stuff up and we can talk about it. And then the next meeting, we can act on it further. Or I don't know how you do that.
I was going to suggest to the chair at some point is that one of the ways, I mean, you can achieve a balance, right? You spend the better part of your year putting together a legislative agenda that is a working document that's a narrative, right? It doesn't specifically prohibit you necessarily from naming bills in that document, but again, the bill may have a short shelf life,
Yeah.
but the narrative will have, the will for Will County will obviously continue. It doesn't prevent you though also from from chasing some bills on a more timely fashion. I think I had kind of suggested to the chair at some point is that, one of the things we can do is we can create a legislative letter, for example. It's pretty much a form letter that as the committee sits down and something grabs the committee's attention and they say, we want to chase that, we want to oppose this bill, or we want to support this bill, we feel very strongly about it right now. We could have the letter, the form of that letter in and ready to go, where you just create a paragraph, right? And you put it in, the chair would take it to leadership. Leadership would say, yes, we can support that. And it would go from leadership and the chair